full deflection that way, and then that way, and then that way. And that's why you center your servos before you install them. Hello everyone, welcome back to Motion RC. I'm James, and today with this quick tip, we're going to talk about centering your servo. Now, why would you want to center a servo? Basically, you want to have your servo centered so you make sure you get full deflection, 90 degrees each way on your servo. So if this was connected to an aileron on your plane, you would be able to get the same going up and in the opposite direction. That is a very brief description of why we do it, but this video is about showing you how to do it, and here's what you need for how to center your servo. So first thing you're gonna need, obviously, is a servo. We have one here from REATTACH, and we have a link in the description to all the different types of servos. It doesn't matter what brand of servo you have, centering your servo is imperative for any servo. Then second, you're gonna need a servo tester. So we have this GT Power digital servo tester here. This one does a whole lot more than just centering the servos, but that's the only function we're going to talk about today. But there are numerous options available. Again, link in the description. And for this servo, you're going to need at least a 2S battery to power it. But again, depending on the servo tester you use, will determine how you're going to power your servo tester. So now let's get started. So now first things first, guys, when you get your servo out of the box, I've already went ahead and taken out the screw. There's a screw that's always in the top to hold down the servo arm. So what you want to do is unscrew that, and it's always best to hold the servo arm whenever you're screwing or unscrewing. You don't want to really have the servo move like this too much on your own. So now the reason we unscrewed it is because we want to be able to take the arm on and off our servo like so. Now there are teeth around the servo, and what we're going to do when we plug our servo into our servo tester and find whatever center is, then you're going to place your arm in whatever position you want. For the most part, you're going to be 90 degrees from the servo, say this was working an aileron or whatnot. But again, once you center the servo, wherever you put the arm, you will know you'll get full deflection in either direction. And that's the most important thing with centering a servo, and it will work regardless of the arm you use, but using a more straight arm is going to be easier to find center than, let's say, a round one, because it's hard to tell which way is center on a round one. So now let's plug in our servo into our servo tester. And mind you, all servo testers are a little different, but any good one is going to give you your signal voltage. So remember, whenever you plug in, you want to follow whatever negative, positive is and your signal wire, and they give you those options. So remember, black or brown is always going to be your negative, red's going to be your positive, and the yellow usually is always going to be your signal. So we're going to plug it in that orientation. Now we're plugged in, and then you want to power it. So as far as this GT Power one, it does give you two options. You could plug it in with DC, but we just use a 2S LiPo, and that's going to give us power, and you can see power on the screen. And now the beauty of this one is it gives you an option, so analog or digital, and some servo testers are a little more basic than this, so you don't get that option, but I just go to digital because that's what we got. And then line mode takes me to this position. So when I'm in the mode that allow me to control the servo. So if you watch the servo, and I could hold it this, I'll put it this way. When I rotate this back and forth, we can see I get full deflection in either way. So what I want to do, based on the way this servo tester works, it works by numbers. So it gives you 2,000 in one way and 1,000 in the other way. So I know that 1,500 is where center is going to be on my servo. So I put that to about 1,500, and you can see for the most part my servo is about centered if that's where I wanted my arm. But you could take it off and say I needed the arm on the other side. If I wanted it to be 90 degrees, I put it about as close to 90. Now with the teeth on a servo, center of the servo might not align where it's perfectly 90 degrees, so you may have to sub-trim in your transmitter to make it perfectly 90. You want to get it as close as possible so you can do less work later. That's basically why we do this. So once you find the correct position, again, give it a little test, and you see we're getting full deflection in both ways, which is great. Now just hold down the arm and then screw back in the screw on the servo, and now you have a fully centered servo that you could drop in any application you would. Sometimes it's easier to just center your servos beforehand because sometimes, depending on the aircraft or the boat or the car, when you put a servo in, it's hard to get access to removing that horn to center them later. So centering servos before you start a project, especially like a balsa build, is always a good thing to do. And guys, thank you so much for this quick tip. We hope you enjoyed it, and any more quick tips you want to see, please leave us ideas in the comment section. Any other ideas that you have of how you center a servo, please leave a comment in the description. As always, guys, thanks for joining us for another quick tip.